Alright, we are live, May 28th, 2024. Back for some auto hoax accelerationism, which is really what we're doing here. I don't know if we set off to do this, but this is the course, and it makes the most sense. And I think now is the time to really uh, push this through as far as we can. See how, um, I guess, we'll test the resilience of the system here. In a way, we're almost doing them a favor, exposing all these glitches so they can fill it in. Let's see here. But I want to say this though, they have not ever really patched up any of the holes that we've pointed out. I mean, how many years have we been talking about the ISS and the glitches on the ISS, and they have not improved. I was noting the other night that the space station that China put up there, I expected this is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of what we have already. I thought maybe they were going to improve the special effects and perhaps even phase out the old version. But no, the Chinese space station looks like what you would get if you ordered a space station on Wish. We're joined by Frank Murr, Pete Trippa, Thirst for Truth, Michael Drool, Osher, Ears Up, Mango Penguins, Adaptivia on Twitch. Lesko says it's my birthday. Well, happy birthday, another Gemini. Copaesthetic, Ollie Goering. All right, we have a good crowd here already. We have about 35 people here in the main channel, and I'm live on the backup channel as well. I'm trying to save myself some time. So the channel that's called Infinite Plane Radio will auto export to BitChute. So I'm kind of just going to allow it to do it automatically, and I'm going to delete the archives from the main channel, of course, to protect it, because they will come for us. I have a feeling they're giving me a pass. Like it's hands off Infinite Plane Society until we settle with them. Almost like they're trying to appease me. And we are getting closer to that, this reckoning. It is coming. I sent out a newsletter today. Marcus Goldfinch, you have been served. IPS legal update. And basically it's this. I received proof of service. Goldfinch has been served via some party, I guess the secretary at the headquarters of ICU LLC, doing business as Marco Polo 501c3. And it would be very problematic for Marco Polo, Garrett Ziegler, and the dozen or so unnamed, and some of them have been named, defendants. It would be very inconvenient for Goldfinch to be exposed. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen now. It will be ruinous for their defense. You can't say we're not hackers when someone on your team turns out to be a hacker. Anyway, I sent out a newsletter if you want to keep up with that. We may get back to this later, but yes, I got the proof of service today. J. Dig says, busy start to the week. De Niro, the J6 actors of the Trump trial. Goldfinch served, F-35 crashed near the headquarters, and a bank blew up. Yeah, a bank blew up in Ohio. 7 people were injured, I think 1 in critical. Then we have the F-35, and I actually saw the smoke from the F-35. It was southwest of my position, and I checked on Reddit, which turns out to be a good source for local news, and the pilot had ejected. I checked Reddit the other night after I heard an explosion at like 3:30 in the morning. An explosion and a flash, and I wasn't the only person that noticed it. Seems like there's a lot of that going on around here. Some say it's Transformers. Others say sonic booms. I'm not sure. Yes, Salty Siren, RIP Red Power Ranger. Yes, finally, the curse of the Red Power Ranger may be catching up with him. Every Red Power Ranger has come to a bad end. From auto castration, life sentences, chopping up their roommates, murdering people for money, beating their families, and then killing themselves. One of them is in for COVID loan fraud. Millions of dollars were scammed, and he got caught. And these are all Red Power Rangers. Well, Marcus Goldfinch was a Red Power Ranger, and this is not new. The curse of the Red Power Ranger is very well known, and he's the only one it hasn't hit yet. And I'm like, well, maybe it's his time. We'll talk about all of the things I brought up, and I'm sure more. And if you have anything else you want to bring up, you can call in. The number is on the screen, 563 999-3664. Okay, let's see here. Ted Stryker says a billionaire is going to visit the Titanic in their own vessel. Have you heard about that? I have not. I have not. And we're getting very close to the anniversary of the Titan submersible's implosion, which was last summer solstice. We're about a month out. This may be a side note, but I'll go ahead and mention this because I put it on the blog. And I was just updating everyone because the judge had said you got 30 days to serve him and amend your complaint. And I've checked both those boxes. But I want to bring up these bird signs because this is kind of strange. And it's not just bird signs. Could be something more, but we were talking about synchronicity yesterday, and I have this contention that our focused attention has something to do with synchronistic occurrences. I think there's a feedback loop. Now, of course, this is insane from the perspective of the dominant paradigm, but I'm just saying I notice these things. I can't help but notice, and so I put them down in my notebooks. Well, in the summer of 2022, I lost a civil suit for another stalker that I doxed. Anyway, we'll get to that later. The suit I lost, they were trying to hit me for $642,000 in damages for emotional harm because of memes. And, they didn't want me to drive out there to Ohio. They wouldn't give me the opportunity. They wanted to do it remote. And long and short of it is, I walked out the door the morning of the trial, this Zoom trial, and the instant I opened the door, I'm in my second floor apartment, I see a hawk murder a pigeon in the tree in front of me, and its body was tumbling down as I walked down the stairs. And so I took a picture of this, like, nearly decapitated pigeon. I think its head was taken off, but it was there on the ground, bloodied next to a cigarette butt, and I took this to be a sign. I was like, I'm going to lose today. Because the judge's name, the magistrate, was named Hawk, Chad Hawk. So Hawk killing the pigeon, I took it as a bad sign, and I lost by default. Well, last week I hired this process server, and I'm like, this is day one of the Goldfinch hunt. I hire him via email, pay the bill, and then I go park on the north side of town behind this barbed wire fence, and I'm looking at the sunset, and I roll my window down, and a goldfinch lands on the barbed wire a few feet away from me. It just starts singing, and I actually recorded it. And I interpreted this as goldfinch, barbed wire fence, singing. Sounds like interrogation, confession. And it has to be that because we have his confession, his emailed confession. So I took that as a sign. And then yesterday, I was on a running trail, and they have these new signs that show there's a loop, and it's a circle with an arrow. And I was looking at one of the signs, and I was kind of focusing on it, thinking how it looked like a Q. And at that moment, I imagined a headline and the face of Goldfinch, like a Drudge Report or CNN headline about Q being doxxed. And as soon as I start focusing on this, a goldfinch starts fluttering above me. And it's very windy, so it was fighting against the wind, kind of awkwardly remaining in my view. So just another goldfinch synchronicity. So then today, I get confirmation via email. So I'm leaving the post office, I'm driving around, I get confirmation. Here's your proof of service. And I said out loud, even though I'm alone, I said, gotcha, goldfinch. And as soon as I say that, I drive by this house on a random street I haven't been down, and there's a shed on the side of the house, and it has a mural of the Punisher logo with the American eagle with rifles on it on its forehead. And this is very significant because Goldfinch uses the Punisher logo on all of his George merchandise. Just another coincidence, I'm saying. Anyway, I noticed these things, so I put them down on paper. But the important thing here is he has been served. Oswaldo says, I thought birds weren't real. It must be a Mandoozle. Right. Well, look, I'm just happy to say that we have been doing the work here of the FBI, of law enforcement. We've done all the research because nothing would have happened if we didn't do it. The think tank doxed him. The think tank made all this happen. This wouldn't happen on its own. No matter how many crimes this guy's committed, the system doesn't work that way. So this is really about us punching Big Brother in the face. All right, let me go through my notes and then I'm going to get to your comments. So the next step, by the way, 30 days. I think in about 30 days or so, we will have a response, if not sooner. And if no response, default judgment. But this is it. This is a hook. All right, let's continue here. Donald Trump sitting right in the pit lane watching Charlotte 600. Oh yeah, I want to just point out this picture of Trump. And you're seeing more and more of these hats. The 45, 47 on the side. Remember, that's 9/11. We're being shown this upcoming 9/11. And there's more about that number and stuff, but that's the main point. And I would actually correlate this to the character played by Matthew Modine in Full Metal Jacket, Joker, having the target on the side of his head. Because if you didn't know, Kubrick's movie Full Metal Jacket, which has predictive programming for 9/11, just like The Shining, just like Space Odyssey, Full Metal Jacket does as well. But the protagonist Joker is actually based on JFK. And he has this target on the side of his head, on his helmet, where Trump has the 45, 47. Baja Pickleball says, how many countries have newsbender media departments? It's all of them. It's monolithic. It's centrally controlled. That's the big secret. The big secret is that the conspiracy is ubiquitous and it's successful. It already won. Truthers are like, look, there's a conspiracy coming. They're implementing it. Like, no, we're deep in it. And all the conspiracies the conspiracy theorists talk about are the ones they allow you to have, the ones that they pay attention to. Okay, we got some interesting factoids and stuff with numerology on 9/11 we may skip over for now. Let's look at this one. Gage Grossarm, now known as Paul Prediger, which again, I don't know why he chose that name. You know, he's trying to go anonymous. So he changes Gage Grossarm to Paul Prediger, which is just rhetorically proximal to predator. And there he is hanging out with predators. You know, JoJo, Rosenbaum, is that the one? And the libs were so just pissed about this. They're just so torn up. Like, Rittenhouse has a gun and he goes across state lines and he kills these peaceful protesters. It's like he put down a pedo. Whether or not you think it was real or a psyop, the story of it is pretty clear that he did a good deed. And still, they're pretty mad about it. Like, they killed JoJo. It's like, well, at least JoJo died doing something he loved, chasing a minor. Take some comfort in that. But for the most part, you know, Kyle, you know, the Kenosha hat trick, took out a strangler, disarmed a communist. And speaking of this, there are a lot of comments that are just brutal here about Grossarm here. Let me go ahead and play this clip. Kyle Rittenhouse shot me.
Lovely afternoon. My name is Paul Prediger.
Oh, one more point here. His name changed to Paul Prediger to hide himself. Then he got hit by somebody in an SUV, and he went on the news as Paul Prediger. So then it became a story. Paul Prediger is actually Gage Grossarm, who is hiding from the public by going on the news to talk about how he can't even go outside without someone trying to run him over. But now he's going around on college campuses being the anti-Rittenhouse. And here he is in Ohio. And he's getting no sympathy in the comments, which you'll see.
Many of you know me as Gage Grosstrice. On August 25th, 2020, Kyle Rittenhouse shot me in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
You can applause. He's not going to get any there. But, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse carefully aimed and shot his bicep. You know, he could have shot him center mass, but he spared him. And this guy, by the way, had a gun pointed at Kyle.
Since November 2021, I've chosen to remain silent and not speak publicly regarding Kyle Rittenhouse and the events surrounding that night, preferring my anonymity and safety over revisiting a traumatic period in my life. But that silence ends today.
Okay, let's see some comments by Sep, Byecep. It looks squibby. And look, we were in Discord debating for weeks as to whether this was real or fake, and if fake, how it was faked. And it took a little bit of time for us to really get down to the facts, what we could verify, and what we know now in retrospect. The entire thing was rigged. All the live streamers were basically working for Tucker Carlson, and that's why there weren't any real EMTs. They had these live streamers carrying the bodies to the hospital. I mean, the whole thing is obviously a hoax. As far as how they performed this stunt, I think it's all squibs, and I think there's even some significance to the wounds. The pelvis for a predator, shooting him in the crotch, good. The other guy was a strangler, got shot through the lungs, and the strangler, I think his name was Anthony Grubner. He was friends with Jacob Blake, the one who was shot by the cops 7 times, and the cause of this particular riot. And then Gross Arm being a burglar, losing an arm. This is poetic justice. It's good writing. Stewie says, and these are all comments directed at Paul Gage. After you point, oh yeah, and the Gage. What is with that? Getting shot in the arm during Vax Geddon. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing just seems very scripted. And I believe $42 million. I believe that Kenosha was awarded $42 million by Donald Trump after the riots. So I'm like, well, what is this? Crisis actor pay? Trump promises $42 million to support public safety in Kenosha. Anyway, getting back to the comments, Stewie says, you pointed a loaded illegal pistol in his face and you were disarmed, LOL. Somebody called a wambulance. He changed his name, should have changed it to Les Armstrong. Kyle was found guilty, innocent of all charges, by a jury of his peers. Get over it. Get over it. Here's a song about the Kenosha kid.
Town of old Kenosha marched some troubled rogues one day. Ooh, held hammers high above their heads and looking for a fray. No one dared to ask their business, no one dared.
Alright, not as annoying as that Oliver guy. Oliver Anthony, whatever happened to him? That was quick. So many people were like, you gotta hear this. You know, Joe Rogan made that guy go viral. Everybody acted like it was the best music ever. And I think I think the grifters on the MAGA side tried to appropriate him. Turned out he was a big Bidenite. Terry McKay says, now that creep formerly known as Gage Grosskreutz has himself a new name, he can start a new set of mugshots. Right. He's got this collection of 6 here. Make them into NFTs. You got 6 different mugshots for Gage. Now I can start building up his portfolio for his Paul Predator mugshots. Let's see here. We're looking at pictures. Raise your hand if you've met Kyle Rittenhouse. And here's Gage with the cast on his arm. Look, I don't believe he was shot. And ever since then, it's been long sleeve shirts. We have not seen his arm. Does anybody here believe it was real, by the way? Catching up on some comments, Ted Stryker says, gross arm makes me laugh. Joined by Dominic Spiato. I believe I saw Infinite Jack 33. Awesome. Travis Claude says, why did I laugh when he said Kyle Rittenhouse shot me? Right. Well, he's the only one who could say that. The other two didn't make it. And do you remember the whole thing with when, let's just, Jojo, when Jojo gets shot, they pull his t-shirt over his head. I mean, we analyzed it frame by frame, and it was really strange that you had these appendages of Daily Caller, people working for Tucker again, pretending like they're just regular live streamers on the streets, more or less, or at least creating that impression. But no, it was all a movie set. Thirst says, does Gross Arm have a tour schedule? He does. He's touring college campuses. And so is Kyle, who wrote a book about it. Tricky Ricky 333 says PSYOP, false flag. J Dig says Blaze TV. J Dig says pre-Vaxageddon. Well, yeah, it was about the time that the pandemic was in full effect. I mean, this was 2020 summer. Kenosha was a high point. We were listening on the police scanners. And when it gets into these riots, it becomes very important to follow closely to determine, what's real, what's fake, and then what is even possible. Can you create a closed movie set in the middle of a town where there are ongoing riots and actual acts of violence and destruction? Because there were. And I think the answer is yes. And there's one particular scene where the police walk up to Kyle and they hand him a water bottle and they say, "We're going to send him down this way." And then they walk away, and then the whole thing happens. The shooting happens. And by the way, the FBI was watching the entire time via drone. That wasn't known for a couple of years. More indication that this whole thing was a closed movie set. But I think when they handed him the water bottle, it was a cue. Like, hey, Kyle, behind the scenes, maybe in the Masonic Lodge, like, look, when we hand you the water bottle, it means coast is clear. Water clear, get it? And he says, yeah, okay, boss. And next thing you know, they're on the set. They've determined it's clear. We can do our performative mass mass shooting with Kyle, and it went down without a hitch. American Psy Opera, exactly. Howard Boyd says, Shalom to me, amen, grace and peace, good job. Thank you for joining. Yeah, Jay Diggs, Eliza Schaefer was there as well, working for Blaze, and then was at the barrier break on 1/6 while Trump was on the stage. Okay, so on January 6th, Trump is on the stage speaking to a crowd, and I remember watching this because Donald Trump Jr. was giving these dog whistles to Q. But my point of it is, he's not even done with his speech, and the riots begin at the Capitol. Well, there's a 45-minute walk from the ellipse where Trump was to the Capitol. So anybody who was already there was part of the PSYOP. That was another closed movie set. Kenosha, January 6th, these are two examples of closed movie sets. 9/11 would be another one. But Elijah Schaefer's very questionable. Laura Loomer recently did a bit of an expose on him. I'm not here to go into that, but he's just another one of these fraudulent grifters on the right pretending to be some kind of a conservative or something. All right, moving on here. I'm going to continue through these comments, just checking to see what others have to say to Paul Prediger. For those who didn't watch the trial, he said, quote, "As I pointed my gun at Kyle's head to shoot him, he had to focus to cross his aim past my torso and only shot my arm to disarm me rather than killing me, which he could have done. It would have been quicker, and he had every right to do so." Okay, very lucid take on it, admitting his own fault. Glenn says, "You tried to kill a child and the child won. You're damn right, this is celebration worthy." Yeah, at the time, Kyle was 17. He was previously spotted at a Trump rally wearing a white hat. So people thought Q, number 17, white hat, Q sent the shooter to stop the riots. And I think that the Kenosha event really did mark a turning point. It seemed like after that event, there was something of I think, a bit of dampened enthusiasm for burning down cities. Okay, it says here, "I changed my name because I didn't want to be recognized, but Biden is not doing so well in the election. People are getting worked up again, so I'm giving up my anonymity to see if people get upset that I got shot for pointing a gun at a 17-year-old with an AR-15. Well, I think he's misreading the crowd. I mean, I don't know if anybody's truly on his side. You'd have to be kind of crazy at this point. Self-defense while being hunted in the streets is self-protection. What a weak ponce, says Morgana. That pathetic, cowardly criminal tried to shoot Kyle dead. Only through the grace of God was Kyle able to avoid being murdered. American Brushfire says, "Why would you change your name and then give public speeches about your old identity?" Yeah, and before this, he went on the news with his new anonymous identity. Really strange character here. The Mr. TTT says, "Why was this man not arrested and tried for attacking Mr. Rittenhouse?" Yeah, Rittenhouse should have sued him. Daniel Chamberlain says it was only, oh, this was Kyle's only bad shot. Okay, still, I don't see anyone here expressing any bit of sympathy. He shot you and you deserved it, says Mountain Dew High. You got what you deserved. Kelly Guy says, I just can't with this garbage. He was the violent one. Okay, anyway, I've been looking at these comments all day, and I've yet to find anybody speaking on behalf of him favorably. Millen Sipik says the tough guy who beat up his grandmother before pointing a gun at Kyle and finding out. Yeah, he does have a criminal past, so he's not just a burglar, he's a grandma beater, and now he's on tour. There's so many good remixes of the little jig he did after he lost his bicep. All right, we'll move on. No sympathy again. Commenter says Robert De Niro says Trump is trying to destroy the country. Yeah, getting back to that, why Robert De Niro? A lot of people are talking about this and his interaction with the MAGA crowd, and I think there may be something more to it than just a celebrity bashing Trump with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Because the pattern has been this. The first event, the first arrest was on 4/4, 2023, where Trump is on trial at the same time that Joker 2 is being filmed at that same location. So Joker 2 has a connection with this Trump trial. Just briefly, going to the next one is here he is on trial again, sleeping, I believe, or praying, and Maxwell Azarello sets himself on fire outside. And Azarello is the last name of this famous writer of DC Comics who does Batman and Joker. But we were making these other correlations between, Joker, Batman, Trump, and the courthouse thing. And of course, the burning of Azarello happened at the same time, concurrent with the burning of the Spire at the oldest stock exchange in Copenhagen. And it had Batman, DC comic logos on it. So there's this reoccurring connection here I'm making with, Batman, Joker, and this ongoing narrative with Trump. So here we are moving a little further ahead to this event today, and De Niro's out there making a scene. Well, De Niro was in the Joker movie. He's the one who gets shot on live TV by the Joker. So there may be another reason for him being here if we look at the merging of the scripts between the Batman Joker movies and the news, which goes back. I mean, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Rises really sets the stage for what happens next in the next 10 years. It foreshadows pandemic, mushroom cloud. Then he does Oppenheimer. But we have these other connections between various psyops in the Batman movies. The Batman's released on 3/4, 2023 or 2022 when the Boston bomber has his death penalty reinstated. And of course, we talked about this movie March 4th, 2022. March 4th, right wing terrorists was my prediction, and it pretty much holds up. In the movie, it's very significant. On 11/6, Gotham's underwater. And at the time this movie came out, you had Frank James shooting up the subway, a very Riddler like character. My point being here is that the Batman franchise has matched the news cycles with predictive programming this entire time. So to see Robert De Niro out in front of this Trump trial is likely a connection to this ongoing Joker slash Trump connection. So here you have it. In the movie, he is Murray Franklin. Murray Franklin. This is again probably a connection also to the Taxi Driver movie. So Taxi Driver, and here's a fascinating connection. Taxi Driver is sort of the basis for this Joker movie. So if you've seen Taxi Driver and it has Robert De Niro, and then you look at the Joker movie, you can see that there's a lot of parallels here, and a lot of people have noticed this. I've made note of this before. Everything Joker steals from Taxi Driver, they are the same movie, is what is being said. What is being said here. But now, what's interesting here about the Taxi Driver is now we have a connection between John Hinckley and Taxi Driver. So John Hinckley was obsessed with Taxi Driver. He's the guy that shoots Reagan, who has JFK's birthday. In fact, John Hinckley's birthday is tomorrow. So you have this John Hinckley, influenced by Taxi Driver, to shoot the president. Taxi Driver is the Joker. Robert De Niro is in both. Robert De Niro is at the trial, which has these overlapping connections to the Joker movies. And of course, the shooting of a president is now being correlated with the shooting of Frank Murray in the Joker. And we have this ongoing conversation about whether or not Trump's going to get JFK'd. And of course, JFK's birthday is the same birthday as John Hinckley. Okay, let's continue. Violent Penguin says Roberts says clown, 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 clowns. That's right, Robert De Niro. And of course, the movie and the Joker, it's about everyone being made clowns by the system. 6079 Smith W says, is this live, Tim? Yes, this is live. It is 5/28/2024. Tomorrow there's going to be a gathering at Dealey Plaza to celebrate JFK's birthday. A group of JFK worshippers will be at the scene of his death. Alright, let's continue here. Aries 1 says Nero means black in Italian. Aries 1 says Robert Black. Oh, okay. 777 says the acronym of TDS is probably some kind of a code. Trump derangement syndrome? Well, he's got it bad. So you have this Trump deranged guy, and he's connected to the Joker movie. And I think he even, I don't know, there's layers to this, but again, I don't think it's a coincidence that Robert De Niro is the one there, and I think it's part of attaching this Taxi Driver, John Hinckley, Joker assassination theme to this whole story. Thirst for Truth says Hinckley and Alex Stain, same high school, Crisis Actor Academy. Ooh, at Parkland High School. Yeah, he did. He went to a Parkland, I think it was called, right? But it may be exactly that. I mean, what is it with these lifetime actors? I mean, that's what I would how I would describe it. So, for example, Meatloaf. One word or two. It's a Mandela effect, apparently. Meatloaf was at the scene of the JFK assassination. Well, not there. He was at the hospital. So he apparently shook JFK's hand earlier in the day, and that evening he gets some of JFK's blood on his hands. He tells this story many times. I don't believe it's real. I happen to think that he's a lifetime crisis actor, kind of like David Hogg. Like if you can imagine David Hogg in 30 or 40 years, that's kind of what we're saying. People do this their entire lives, and they go through various roles. Meatloaf met President Kennedy at Dallas Love Field. After he heard about the assassination, he drove to Parkland Hospital. Now this is interesting. The Parkland, and then he saw Jacqueline Onassis covered in blood, getting out of the car. So Parkland Hospital has some connections. Parkland High School, Parkland Hospital. Highland Park shooter is the one with the 47 on his head, obsessed with Lee Harvey Oswald. And he was doing the shooting on 4/7, or 7/4 rather, the 4th of July. But he was doing this shooting with the 4/7 on his head after going to Trump rallies. So you have this connection there, Highland Park, Parkland High. At the same time, Patrick Cruz from Parkland High was being sentenced. And so you had Parkland, Highland Park, and then this. Many examples I can point to. I did a whole mind map on it. The connections are voluminous, but again, this is just suggested that Meatloaf is a lifetime psyoper. He's in the business. Angst G says an actor named John Wachter was allegedly shot to death at 3:30 a.m. downtown LA. Seems fake. Now that you said 3:30, I'm thinking it's very fake. And some said it sounds like whacked actor. The story is his catalytic converter was being stolen. He thought he was being towed. He confronted them or walked up to them, the ones who were taking his converter, and they killed him. Thieves had Johnny Wachter's car on a jack before the shooting. So I didn't know it was 3:30 a.m. I think there's a lot we could extrapolate from this. Let's see. J is the 10th letter. W is the 23rd. So you get a 33 there. Catalytic converter CC 33. He was 37. I don't know if that means anything. It says here just before 3:30 on Hope Street. He died at a hospital. Now, apparently he wasn't even provoked. What's the agenda here? Not quite sure. But his former fiance was on the news or on TikTok crying about it. And she kept saying to him, "You shot the wrong guy," which I find to be kind of strange. Like, who's the right guy? Strange comment. And a lot of people remarked that it seemed like she was acting. And I concur with that. I believe she was acting. It seemed like an act. All right, let's go and play this clip. Robert De Niro.
You are gangsters. You are gangsters. You're washed up. Fuck you. You're a little punk. You're a softy. You're a nobody. Your movies suck. You're trash. You're trash. You're done. You're done after this guy.
Now, these are MAGAs, totally unhinged, and he kind of baited them. But I think he's going to be applauded by the left for his courage. The right says he's washed up, and uh, yeah, this is again, I think, part of the Joker narrative. Trump is inside. Others are saying this is trying to taint the jury pool, which could be the case. But he's being ripped on, and a lot of people are, making fun of Robert De Niro for his meltdown here, his TDS, which I agree with. This is TDS. Horrible memes. I mean, some of these I don't even want to describe, like the guy at the gas pump. Unbelievable. I think he was making a statement about how we're being screwed by big oil or something, but there was just this horrible situation at one of the gas stations. If you saw it, you probably wanted to use gasoline as eye wash. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna forward that meme, but somebody put De Niro's face on that guy. Unbelievable. Now, again, I think he was put out there as some kind of a connection to the Joker, John Hinckley taxi driver thread here that we've picked up on. Let's see what else here. Going through your comments. J Diggs says his mother's name was Scarlett. G says they interviewed the family the next day. They didn't seem shaken at all. Johnny Wachter's family. Yeah, that event, we don't have any direct evidence of it. All we have is the girlfriend crying about it. And a lot of people are remarking that it didn't seem real. She seemed like she was acting terribly, like a soap opera actress. It didn't seem convincing. And it was an unusual statement to make. You shot the wrong guy. Again, what does that mean? Trump? Is that what she's trying to say? All right, let's move on here. Again, that was Robert De Niro's freak out. He and, I guess, Alec Baldwin are the most deranged in this respect. Okay, Patriot Takes. Trump posts unhinged video promising to get rid of all the effing liberals. Yeah, Joe Scarborough was confronted by some wild MAGAs who said some pretty terrible things. And then Trump shared the video of what they said, what they did on Trump social, tacitly endorsing this type of behavior. Let me go and play this clip. This is someone confronting Joe Scarborough. Content warning, language is pretty bad. Trump amplifies a vulgar verbal attack.
Wait, he'll get rid of all you fucking liberals. You liberals are gone when he fucking wins.
He says Uncle Donnie is going to get rid of all you liberals. And I think Joe Scarborough says, oh, he's your uncle. Uncle Donnie. The man says, you liberals are gone when he wins. You blank blank liberals are done. Uncle Donnie's going to take this election landslide cuz. Landslide. You half an effing blank blank. Landslide. Get the blank out of here. Scumdog. Again, Joe Scarborough. Does anybody disagree with that? And Joe Scarborough himself is very, very Trump deranged. But yeah, Trump retweeted that video, which is insane. Patriot Take says MAGA idol, and they share this image. And someone has produced these golden Trump busts that you can buy. And they're small enough for, solitary worship. You can probably get larger ones for, rallies. But I sent this back to them just to let them know that the CEO of George News, who we talked about earlier, he has an illuminated Bible and a Trump statue. But his golden Trump statue is Trump as Caesar with a toga and a laurel wreath. And he's got this next to his Bible. Hail Caesar Trump, made of gold. And he has his Bible open to, I believe it's his favorite Bible verse. It's chapter 45, which is a reference to Donald Trump being president 45. I don't know what book it is, but it's about Cyrus, some biblical character Cyrus. This is all connecting to this almost biblical prophecy about how Trump is some kind of prophesied political savior. But anyway, MAGA worship. I don't know if this means anything. Here is Robert De Niro with his bodyguard. And here is Sam Bankman-Fried with the same bodyguard. The nonners are suggesting there's more to it. I don't know. There must be a reason for it. Okay, continuing here. Yes, Robert De Niro, Travis Bickle. 777 says, imagine wanting to become an actor and you join theater club in school and all of a sudden you're involved in a lifetime of lying. Yeah, big liars club. And actors are really good at lying. So when it comes down to what makes, I think, a good crisis actor, it's the ability to method act and to lie on camera and commit to the bit. And actors are really just well-trained liars who don't exhibit the guilt, the blushing, the shame. They can just get into a character. And we live in a very actor-driven reality, and it's the lie world order. And lying is really the main thing. If you're a good liar, there's no limits for you in this world. Look at George Santos. He lied his way to the heights of power, and now he's selling cameo clips for hundreds of dollars. Like he's made his fortune based on his ability to lie. Telling the truth, though, that will get you exiled, banned, demonetized. You'll be blacklisted from getting any kind of jobs. Truthers are not welcome here. Aries 1 says, not many books in the Bible have 45 chapters. I saw this movie on Netflix called From, and it was about the 74th book of the Bible, because there are 73, but they were, in this movie, they were living through the 74th. But the Catholic Bible has 73 books, 46 in the Old Testament, and then you've got the New Testament with 27. 73 is a very intriguing number in this context. Lean Dion says, in recent years, they've nearly perfected political theater max engagement. Absolutely. When Netflix purchased the DMs and browser history of all Facebook users, I think that was pretty much when they won the game. They can target market psychological operations. They can fine tune it. I mean, there's no escape. If you haven't stepped out of the box by now, you're probably never going to. And your progeny will be born into it. Like, there is no escape. We're past the point of no return. If you're still on the wrong side of the screen, then at this point in 2024, with all the information we have, if you're not exercising basic skepticism, then you are a believer, a true believer. And you know how hard it is to get people to leave their religions. Most don't. Why would they? Especially not if there are incentives for remaining in the religion. And the mainstream media religion is the dominant faith of the world, and there's no challenge. Commenter says, Yes, yes, all right. The son of Cyrus temple coin has been compared to Trump, and that's what is being referenced in that picture. Angst G says De Niro and Trump are probably cheering each other on behind the curtain. Oh yeah, yeah. That would be my take on it as well. That this is scripted theater, and he's out there because he's this Joker connection. Now, I got this email from Donald Trump today. It said "Defend me," and it has a hat for sale. It's a camo hat. So here he is about to be placed into a cell. I guess his Secret Service are going to go to jail with him. So Trump's going to jail, and he says, "Defend me," and he sends out this advertisement for a camo hat. Like, what kind of signal is that? I'm getting some kind of dog whistle out of this. Like the people who are ready to run for the hills, the redcoats are coming. I think that this is kind of almost a dog whistle, somewhat incendiary. Like, get your guns, get your MREs, get your Bibles, time to go to war. But we're going to find out very soon. I think they've already made moves towards having him incarcerated. Yesterday we talked about the unsightly rock that some J6ers try to drop off at Arlington National Cemetery. It has Ashley Babbitt's name on it. She's not dead. Roseanne Boylan's name on it. She's not dead. They misspelled it. Anyway, I think this is Ashley Babbitt's mom. She's pretty mad because somebody vandalized their unsightly rock.
Say that this city has non-biased people in it when we have a monument, the very same monument that acknowledges Roseanne Boylan, Kevin Greason, Benjamin Phillips, and Ashley Babbitt, riding around on Mr. Pollock's truck with some flags on it, which really appalls people. They are so shocked to see an American flag in America. And they feel so hateful towards us that some pink-haired lady rubbed dog shit all over the monument while it was in the back of Mr. Pollock's truck.
All right, so who has the pink hair? Some pink hair rubbed dog defecation all over the rock. Very terrible thing to have done. Here is, again, Ashley Babbitt. I have zero sympathy for this cause, the J6ers. I don't think they're martyrs. Now, I don't think that's appropriate free speech, but it happened. Just a statement, I guess. That's Ashley Babbitt's mother, and that tells you that she's part of the psyop. There's no way that she's clueless about her daughter's fake staged death. And if you're under any kind of illusion that Ashley Babbitt died, what is your source? Have you not checked the jump cuts, the Woo's News frame by frame analysis of that squibby event? And they couldn't even get the squibs to go off right. Everything about it is just hoaxy as heck. All the people involved, none of it adds up. In fact, I believe Woo's News is going to bring about another devastating video takedown of January 6th. So again, January 6th was not an insurrection. Well, it was an insurrection attempt, but it was never meant to succeed. It was a honeypot. It was essentially an attack on the political right, in my opinion. But nobody died, nobody cried. It was all theater. No cops died. It's horrible acting, as we can all, just point out. It was terrible acting. It was obviously scripted. Looked like the fall of Rome. You had all these characters posing for the cameras. Nothing about it was real. And yet people still act like it was. So if you still exist in the universe where January 6th was an attempt to save a stolen election or something, if you still believe the official narrative or Trump's narrative, you're in the box, is what I'm saying. You're on the wrong side of the screen. You've been deceived. Lord Laney says, I demand a better quality PSYOP. Violet Penguin says it was worse than 9/11. Yeah, well, apparently the public has very poor standards. We watched it live, and it looked like a guided tour. But within a year, CNN, MSNBC, they were all able to kind of recontextualize the footage, add their own editorializing, and they made it look worse than it was. But no, it was not, I wouldn't even call it a peaceful protest. It was just really bad street theater. It was like fake fighting. It wasn't real. That's the main point here. Nobody died. So what this means here is that this was a bipartisan psyop. That's the main key here. This was a bipartisan psyop. You had characters out there like Baked Alaska pointing at Fred Epps or Ray Epps. And look, the Tucker Carlson version of the events is this: peaceful protesters, and then Ray Epps shows up and he says, run into the Capitol. And then the riot happened. So it was all Ray Epps' fault that it was provoked. It was a stimulated riot, stimulated by feds. That's the Tucker Carlson version. No, it wasn't stimulated. It was simulated. Baked Alaska's a Fed, calling out another Fed as a Fed in order to create the impression that there are some people there who aren't Feds. The entire thing was Feds. There's no one there who wasn't completely part of this, a paid actor in a gig. I mean, that's all it is. It's theatrical. And we have to point this out because the default position is just to go with the events as televised, however you interpret them, but they happened, people died. Nope, nobody died. Okay, continuing here. Q Shaman's breakout role. Yeah, I was convinced for some time that Q Shaman is Owen Schroyer. They sound the same. If you close your eyes, you can't tell the difference. Their rhetoric is the same. It would fit the bill. Tip of the spear, guy with the spear runs into the Capitol. But the Q Shaman is another one of these characters who was just completely made up. Never went to jail. The whole thing was also fake. And he probably smells like roadkill. But that was a fake event, start to finish, and people get, again, they get kind of caught up in the narratives and they forget that the whole thing was fake and everybody betrayed you. If you're a voter, you're a masochist or you're ignorant. I mean, that's I guess it's forgivable. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize people for their poor life choices. I got a comment from Lloyd Miller on my Marcus Goldfinch "You Have Been Served" post. Congrats, my wife has a feeder specifically aimed at finches. We saw a rare gold one Saturday. Yeah, I've had a number of goldfinch sightings since I've gone on my, since I announced my goldfinch hunt. By the way, Stu Peters is out there putting out terrible content and then good content. Like, oh look, we all agree with him here, and then he comes out with something monstrous. But I have an update here on what he means when he says it's time for total accountability. Another one of these actors on the world stage. Failed rapper turned alt-right provocateur. Usually it's failed comedians, but this is a failed rapper. Went by the rapper name Focus.
I don't see any other way out of this other than extreme accountability. And by that, what I mean is I'll be very specific, because I don't want people to be like, well, what does he mean by that? Like, no, let me not mince words. I'll look into the camera and say this. Extreme accountability means putting on trial the people that have committed these crimes against humanity, and upon a guilty conviction, they are executed on a national stage.
Snuff films. Wants to kill people on TV. Truth Hurt says, glad he was wrong about snake venom in the water. Well, he had a conference set up for October in Atlanta, where he was going to teach people how to make nooses and burn books, but that got canceled for some reason. Anyway, he wants to see people executed on TV, wants to see brains blown out, wants to see people hanging, burning at the stake.
I don't care how. I don't care how. Firing squad, guillotine, hang from a length of rope until dead, shot in the brain, don't care how. They're out here killing our kids.
Guillotine. So he wants to see guillotines. Again, it's got to be on TV, it's got to be televised. But he doesn't want to mince words. This is what I mean when I say extreme accountability.
And I just don't see any other way, because we have exhausted every other means of peaceful or political solution. We're not going to vote our way out of tyranny. We're not going to vote our way out of psychopath, a bioweapon release and forcing on the American people we're not going to vote our way out of anything because voting is fake. It's fucking fake. So
Interesting take here. So he's saying voting is fake, but when he says fake, he doesn't mean fake in the way that we mean it. And this is someone who believes that every one of these events is real. People are dying at all these events. He's not an auto hoaxer. So he shouldn't even be using the word fake. He's misappropriating a word. And it's all by design, of course. But I watch what these individuals say because they use these individuals to indirectly get at us.
unless somebody has like a viable alternative solution other than physically removing them as our Constitution, and don't act like this is extreme or radical or unprecedented.
So he's ready to physically remove them, whatever that means. Again, Stu Peters, tough talk. And here he is in his Camaro. Let me play this clip here. It's a little cringe.
Get in, loser. We're going to Nuremberg.
Get in, loser. We're going to Nuremberg. All right, moving on here. They're calling for Nuremberg. I guess they want to go after the people who are in support of the V. I don't know who's on his hit list. I don't know the full list, but just a heads up, that's coming. Extreme accountability. And by the way, he had a major breakup with his ex-producer, Lauren Witzke. And he said some horrible things about her, and she's hitting back. It's looking pretty terrible. I think what she said is he called her a fake Christian white nationalist, and that said that she's got pregnant by a Mexican, which of course for someone like him, that means that she's not part of the white nationalist struggle anymore, and she's going to hit back. But in the meantime, a lawsuit has been revealed to expose that between Stu Peters, Lauren Witzke, and a few others, there's a lot of infighting. And it all has to do with who gets the money for the documentary Suddenly Died and Watch the Water. So if you don't know what Watch the Water is, Watch the Water was a Stu Peters documentary where he said that snake venom had been put into the pokies. And that made apparently a lot of money. It says here, Peters gained prominence with the 2022 documentary Died Suddenly, which focused on the evidence-free claim that the V's are causing sudden deaths in people around the world. Anyway, it turns out, and this is all from their internal memos, that this is all just a way to make money. The suit paints a picture of an extremist media empire driven by clicks and commercials from a company selling gold bars to people paranoid about the next crisis, plus audience donations. This also reveals how heavily Peters relies on outsiders to create the content aired under his brand name. Fame has long been a goal for Peters. And this is from TalkingPointsMemo.com. A profile published by Mother Jones detailed how he spent the early 2000s and 2010s pursuing his rap career. His musical efforts did not result in industry success, and he detailed this in a 2012 song. The video for the song is a fictionalized version of his mother telling baby Peters, "You're gonna make it, Stuart, my special boy." And then he details how his dream was a failure. It goes on to his career as a bounty hunter, attempting to catch sensational footage online. So he's got a background in arresting people. I think there's something else here as well. I believe that there's a little bit of drama in his background, but he really blew up with Died Suddenly. Well, right now, let's get into this beef that he's got with these other creators. It says here, Witzke, who was still working for the Stu Peters network, wanted from Peters, and according to the attorney, a $25,000 mid-year bonus, and Lauren Carr a $13,500 car allowance. Anyway, it goes on about how the other parties in this said that Stu Peters had Died Suddenly, quote, into his grift. HIS is capitalized. So their grift became his grift, and he was hiding a lot of money from his ex-wife. And so that's where we're at right now. We'll continue to follow on this, but there's a lot of infighting with Stu Peters, Lauren Witzke, and a few others, all behind the anti-vax documentary Suddenly Died. But what it shows you is that it was always about the money. It's just big business. Anti-vax is a huge business. They sell fear. And if you're an anti-vaxxer, you are a fear porn consumer. Donna South says Stu Peters, Stupiders, is another gross arm of controlled opposition. Yeah, he's one of the more obvious controlled opposition types. He can say a lot of things, and like incendiary things, and not get banned. Things that if I said, I'd be deleted. Nick Fingar says, I got an email from the final experiment guy about you. He wants a link to a video of you saying you're down for it. Send him a link to this. In fact, I'll record a video this evening, and I will offer to go. I will go deep, deep south, and I'm not doing it for any other reason than to observe a 24-hour sun and report my findings objectively. I'm not going to move the goalposts. I'm not going to say, yeah, there's a 24-hour sun, but, I'm just going to bring the evidence. We'll do this, I think, if no one else wants to. We'll just do this in a very straightforward, transparent way. It'll be 24-hour live stream. I'll stay awake for 24 hours in Antarctica at the South Pole, slowly turning in a 360-degree circle. Just do a full circle, no breaks. I think there are a few videos, but they're not taken seriously by flat earthers. I think some of them have some kind of questionable features. I think one of them has clouds that obscure the sun for a moment. But anyway, apparently they had a list of like a dozen people willing to go, and everyone's saying no, they're afraid of getting shot. They don't want to, I guess, like, why? There's just an ice wall there. Why? There's just a dome there. They have their excuses for not going. It's like, why wouldn't you want to go? And one other point here. Let's say we're on a spinning ball 25,000 miles in circumference. If that's the case, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to have your hypothetical version debunked? Nobody wants to live a lie. So we want to expose, well, are we already living in a lie, or is this the truth? And have we questioned it long enough, and is there some way we can arrive at a conclusion that we can agree upon? Like, why wouldn't anybody want that? And if it is flat, why wouldn't you want to go anyway, just to reinvigorate the conversation? Everybody in the world will know when a flat earther is heading south. Truth Hurts 21 says, I never heard about the 24-hour sun. I guess that would settle it. Yeah, it depends. It depends. Some will have excuses, or they'll make some other claims. They'll suggest, well, maybe there's a different sun. Maybe we're looking at a series of poles, like north poles across a plane. But we got to get past the whole thing of trying to conjecture about models. We need to get more info first. It's premature. Portal says we need a 24-hour IPS music channel marathon. I should get the IPS 24/7 back on. I guess there's no reason why it shouldn't be. We do get a lot more new commenters. In fact, let's go ahead and make that a priority. Commenter says Taurus, Apple, Earth, and a plane of inertia. Could be. Okay, let's move on. Breaking: Secret Service has met with local jail officials in New York to discuss preparations for President Trump to go behind bars. So they're getting ready for that. And I don't want to omit the fact that this is about Stormy Daniels. And the whole line has been this entire time, the storm is coming with Q. And the 55th Q drop said The first arrest will shock the world. Well, Donald Trump was there on 4/4/2023, which was the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination. So you have this, confluence of symbols and dates, anniversaries that kind of suggest here that the QAnoners, at least, would have enough, I think, breadcrumbs here to continue to believe. Because they're like, oh, the storm, Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump arrested, just like the prophecy. Like he is fulfilling QAnon prophecy, weirdly enough. Gnosis Wolf said, we have reached a point where we cannot vote our way out of this. The Patriot Hammer. Alex Jones says yes. So Alex Jones, Gnosis Wolf, and Stu Peters are in agreement. There's no point in voting. We can't vote our way out of this. So what does this mean? And Alex Jones agreeing with this. What are you voting your way out of if it's all fake? That's why I advocate inactivism. And I make this point. The position of the auto hoaxer, of the skeptic, is inactivism, conscientious objection. I in no way support any kind of direct action or activism at all to solve political problems. All of the politicians are compromised. They're reality impaired, even if they're not compromised in other ways. For example, they all believe in moon landings. If you believe in moon landings, you are reality impaired. Commenter says Trump is Q plus. Right, Q is JFK. Trump is Q plus. JFK Jr. is R. I've heard all this stuff before. Trump's the Antichrist. That one I believe. I mean, all the Christification, the Christ typology is pretty obvious, but it's far overshadowed by the Antichrist stuff. That's why we're so, I think, ready for this head wound scenario. Revelation 13. By the way, last night I watched a movie called Atlas with J-Lo. I finished it last night, and there are some aspects of it that are ripping off of T2, but T2 Terminator, another Trump reference, the one eye thing. Also T2 the Destroyer, a reference to Apollyon in the Abyss, 9/11, A Bad Dawn. But I couldn't help but notice that the antagonist in Atlas also kind of reminds me of Elon Musk. But it's all about Neuralink and about AI deciding that man's going to destroy the environment, therefore, man must be destroyed. That for his own survival, that man's going to have to be put back into the Stone Ages. Like, it's pretty dark stuff, but AI terrorism. It's an AI terrorist is what it is. Just checked it out. It's cartoon violence, cartoon action rather. I wouldn't say it's bad. I mean, it's pretty bad in a few ways, but it's worth watching. Something about this reoccurring theme that AI is scary, and that it's the devil. Someone had asked about that in our Gilded server. I think we were discussing this earlier today because Joe Rogan has been coming out in front of this saying that AI is some kind of scary thing. Plain Decoded said, it's really curious to me that Rogan is pushing AI fear. There's nothing to be afraid of. But why is he so personally scared? And in my opinion, this is an expression of the schism, the left-right dichotomy. The right wing is going to be afraid of aliens and artificial intelligence. And this is by design. Both of these things will be associated with the devil. Aliens are demons. AI is demonic. And another thing too, AI, you get another 19, and 2001 Space Odyssey had HAL 9000. And this has been a reoccurring theme. Skynet in Terminator. This idea of a sentience, Otto in Wall-E. These are all kind of the same concept here. The idea of some higher intelligence embodied in a computer that becomes our master. Truth Hurts says, the only activism I participated in was an anti-GMO rally in like 2015. Pretty sure all those people got vaxxed. Yeah, these rallies are just places where you can be recruited for various limited hangout operations. 6079 Smith says, Tim, thoughts on the Bible? Well, it's undeniably an astrotheological text. If you can't decode Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as the four seasons, as fire, water, earth, air, then you're missing the point, in my opinion. I mean, it is objectively true that the Bible is an astrotheological text with an esoteric subtext throughout. This has been explored ad nauseum. In fact, I have a lot of books by Micah Dank who writes about this extensively. Like, so that's one of my starting points. I don't treat it as a historical document. In fact, I think it's a worldview filter. I think every holy book that claims divine authority is a worldview filter, whether it's Holy Bible, the Quran, or some culty book like the Thelemites have. These are all just filters, and they've all been supplanted by the TV, by the ubiquitous screen. So it's kind of like old school fake news, in my opinion. I mean, there are some beautiful verses, there's a lot of good content in there. It's an amalgamation of a lot of different things, different influences, but do I think God wrote it? No. Just like I don't think that God writes the predictive programming. I think it's all the work of man. And I don't even trust religion anyway. And you know what I trust less than religion? People who say, I'm a believer in this, but I'm not religious. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a distinction without a difference. I don't trust any of these filters. No one's going to filter my worldview for me. I can perceive for myself. All right, phones are open. First caller, Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, well, how's it going, Tim?
Doing very well. Just keeping up with the daily bread and circuses, waiting for Trump to go to jail, etc. What's going on over there?
Love it. Oh, not much. Yeah, no, I like what you just had to share there. This is 6079 Smith W.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not a believer.
That's what you had to share there.
I'm not a believer in any religious paradigm. I think that these are all boxes, and I just think that we're looking at this clash between the old box and the new box. And I'm like, I don't really want to go into a box at this point.
I'm trying to think outside the box, and the box is the cube of Mecca.
Well, I would correlate these. I would look at,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that all the Abrahamic faiths, and I would even say that mainstream media is an
There's
extension of
only
these.
one. There's only one, though. Respectfully, there's only one Abrahamic faith. Islam steals everything from Christianity. You'd have to have your eye slammed to not see it. Take the word Islam, break it in two words. It's eye slam, and a needle user is called a slammer. But go ahead.
Sure. Look, I feel like these
Go
religions.
ahead. I'm not
Okay.
here to combat.
No, no,
I'm
look,
just
look. Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Bible. I think these are all equivalent. I don't think one is better or more valid than the others. I think they're all the same.
But and just to go to my point, do you ever see anybody else on YouTube saying, "Hey, look how fake the Book of Mormon is"? No, no. You might see people badmouthing Quran. You do not see anybody speaking about the Book of Mormon. You don't see anybody speaking up about Buddha or Krishna or whatever the other one is. It's all about Christianity. So I just want to throw this out there. And I have a different perspective, but if you look at John 3:16, for God so loved the world, and I bet some people in your chat, they're not only you to type it, but they can finish it. Loved the world so that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish.
I think
but
that's
have some change.
psychopathic. Look, objectively speaking, it's psychopathic. A vicarious salvation,
What do you
blood
mean?
sacrifice. Like, hey, this guy will sacrifice his life so that we can have some. Like, I don't believe in human sacrifice. I think that's archaic and psychotic. I don't think that's a reasonable thing for a
I,
benevolent God to do. It's unreasonable. I think it's grotesque. Objectively speaking, it is grotesque. It's murder.
I
It's
do.
torture.
No, I agree. And so the point I'm trying to make is that the Bible has been Mandela effect altered, and because I'm not a good Christian, But I am a Christian because I backslide daily. I make bad choices. I'm not perfect. But if you look at John 3:16, it used to say, shall not perish. If you look at any text anywhere, it now says, should not perish. Shall not perish is a definite article, meaning that you will not perish. But should not means you probably won't perish. It's not a definite article. And they have changed it. And if you look at 2 Corinthians 4:4, it's the Lord of this world has blinded people so that they cannot see. They cannot see the truth because he has physically blinded them from seeing the truth. I think the Bible's been altered. I'm not, on this. I'm not here to convince other people, but I am here to share other things.
The
I love your
Bible's been
channel, Tim. I
altered. The
wish you
Bible's
would
been
learn more.
altered. Look. The Bible is like,
Yes, it has.
no, the Bible is one of the most altered books that there is. And not only that, but
It makes you question why, Tim.
every believer has a different interpretation on it. There's nothing objective about it. Like the idea
I
that the
know,
Bible's altered. Come on,
I know, but
Mandela affected. The
I'm
Mandela
not
effect.
down the fact that it's
The
been
Mandela
altered. I'm
effect.
just saying.
The Mandela effect doesn't
I'm just.
exist. The Mandela effect
Go ahead.
doesn't exist.
Do you not remember that? What was his name? What was that guy's name? That did the Publishers Clearinghouse checks? Come on, bro. Come on.
Okay.
I
Where
watched those Publishers
do you have any
Clearinghouse.
friends?
Do
Do you have
I'm
any?
not trying to. I'm not
No,
trying to
listen.
sidetrack you.
Do you
I
have
love your show.
do you have any friends who say, "Yeah, we got this mansion because my grandmother got a big check from Ed McMahon"? Do you know anybody whose family fortune came from one of Ed McMahon's
No,
checks?
but I 100% remember. I do remember Ed McMahon handing out the checks on Super Bowl Sunday. I do remember the Buffalo Bills playing in 4 straight Super Bowls. You know why I remember that? Because I used to go to my dad's house to watch them, and that was the only time my dad gave me any attention was during the Buffalo Bills games on the Super Bowl. That's why I remember it. It's burned in my brain forever. It's not a false memory. It's real. Ed McMahon used to deliver the checks.
For who?
He did.
For Publishers
But now if you look
Clearinghouse?
back, he never did. Yes. But if you look back, he never did. And like I said, I'm not trying to sidetrack your show. I love everything you do. You actually got a shout out from a pretty big channel the other night. I'm shit, but I said, yeah, guys got some good stuff.
What channel?
Everything
What
is
channel was
fake
it?
and gay, like you said.
What channel was it, by the way?
I don't know, bro.
Of course you would know. Look,
Vice channel.
your memory is unimpeachable. You remember Ed McMahon 20, 30 years ago doing something that nobody else remembers, and you don't remember what you just heard a shout out?
His name was Toiletable Earth. He's a little bit bigger channel than you. Like I said, from day one when I met you, I'm like, we don't need to go down that road. I love what you do, bro. I love what you do. I want people questioning everything because everything these days is an agenda. What they do is they take agendas and they throw them and they're like, what sticks? What sticks? Have you looked at the new variant? It's called the flirt variant. They're flirting with what works. They're like, does this work? It's called the flirt variant.
Yeah, look, we're dealing with,
You know what I mean?
it's a confluence
It's
of,
all bullshit.
it's not just advanced propaganda, but it's propaganda and marketing, all the marketing tactics, guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in
Yeah.
the sea of irrelevance. This is the brave new world, absolutely. This is why we need to be skeptical, 100%. And this is the reason why I firmly adopt
Hey,
the.
so what do they say about Dylan Mulvaney? She's brave. Yeah, it is a brave new world. She's not brave. It's a dude.
Who's that? Oh,
I get
Dylan. Dylan was the Pepsi guy, Pepsi girl, the person that was like a Mormon
You know what I mean?
who became a
But when
trans
they talk about those
influencer.
people, they say that person is brave. It's a brave new world, but it's actually the opposite of brave because
Well,
if
look,
it was
I
brave,
appreciate the
men would
call. I
stand
want to
up
talk
for
about
the
these
agenda.
subjects. We'll see what everyone else has to say about it. Appreciate the call. Uh, yeah, I don't think the Mandela effect is legitimate. It's false memories. We know how it's created. It's a form of gaslighting. The idea that the Bible changes, if anything in the Bible's changed, I mean, there's so many edits, misinterpretations, reinterpretations. The Bible is fluid. The Bible is reality fluid. And the idea that it had some objective version that has been altered and the Mandela affected, who aren't even Bible scholars, can tell us that, come on. That's just insane. Look, I'm not booting you, 6079, but and nobody cares about Dylan Mulvaney, who was a Mormon missionary or something turned into a spokesperson for Budweiser. This is all culture war stuff, and I don't really give it any of my time or attention. And that's what they want. They want you to be outraged if you uphold traditional values. This is mind war stuff. Now, Ed McMahon never passed out any money. You were lying, and so you're a Bible believer. You believe in, like, I got the insight to God and the creator of the universe, but I'm also a liar on the internet. Like, why would you even lie? You are lying if you're saying that you know this to be true. For example, you're bearing false witness is a better way of putting it. You do not remember Ed McMahon because it never happened. It's called false or faulty eyewitness testimony. And faulty eyewitness testimony is a byproduct of retroactive interference, of interrogator bias. So here you are thinking about Ed McMahon. Do I remember Ed McMahon passing out checks? And when you were prompted, you may have imagined it. You may have constructed a memory out of impressions and what you actually remember about him. And then you treated that prompted imagining as a memory. In other words, you created a false memory and you're clinging to it. Good for you. Let's see what else here. Lord Laney says, I hope the fake raspy cowboy from the other night calls in too. Yeah, that was a pretty good accent. He kept it up for a good 5 minutes. Now, 6079 acted a little hurt that I got him off the phone, but we weren't getting anywhere. And the main point is this. You made your assertion, and now we can talk about it. You're asserting that the Mandela effect is real, and we know it's not real. So that makes you a faulty eyewitness. Like, you are not someone who is qualified to comment on objectively or objective changes to the Bible, because you're not an objective witness. You're actually a tainted witness. When you really get down to interrogation and procedures, someone who's already convinced that somebody is lying is biased. That would be a tainted witness. And so we have to take into account that the people who are pushing the Mandela effect already believe in it. And if they already believe in it, they're far from objective. And they're not coming from a place of truth. They're coming from a place of bearing false eyewitness testimony. Unbelievable. One of the most perplexing Mandela effect claims is that Jesus was hanged on a tree, like not on a cross. And I believe it was dogwood, which is like really small and shrubby. But they say he was hanged on a tree, that it changed. And I'm like, okay, well, if the Mandela effect, CERN or whatever, changed Jesus or changed his crucifixion to now he's on a tree, now we've got 3 trees because there were 3 people crucified. They don't answer all these other questions. And then what's more, if this is the case, then why do we have crucifixes and crosses on churches and not trees? Like a world tree or something. Like, you should have a tree crucifix. Lean Dion says, Ravely got the body changes. Yeah, he says he's got a few more holes in his head. His heart has moved. His kidneys have moved. He's going through some changes. And this is, I think, one of the more interesting takes on the Mandela effect is that if you're Mandela affected, not only is your reality changing, but you're slightly changing. So you could wake up tomorrow and have 6 fingers. Like, that's where they're at. And then everybody else, though, will have 6 fingers. And you'll be like, hey, look, everybody, we have 6 fingers. Like, yeah, we always did. And you're like, no, we used to have 5 fingers. And then they'll call you crazy. That's kind of what they're asserting. But some of them are pretty hopeful that these body changes will work in their favor. So in the next reality, the next shift, you'll be taller, a little thinner, better hair, and over time you improve and then you achieve godhood. And this is why they hate me, because they call me the God blocker. And it's not because I'm blocking them from finding God. I'm blocking them from finding their own godhood. That were it not for me spreading disbelief about the Mandela effect, they would all be their best selves right now. They can blame me for that. How convenient. They have a scapegoat. I am like the Satan to the Mandela effect religion. I guess that's what the God blocker is. Travis Cloud says this one guy said his wee wee changed colors. Yeah, I saw that video. It was a Mandela effectee in his car, and he was being very descriptive about his particular configuration and about how the colors have changed. Very peculiar. I'm like, I don't want to see the evidence there. I'll just take you at your word. I believe that one. Fine. CERN gotcha. Like what? Did you put it in a CERN portal? All right. Mandela effect is just a bucket of logical fallacies. It's worse than the chemtrails when it comes down to just sheer volume of bad arguments. Mystery object from space crashes down in North Carolina, but what is it? Guess we got more space junk news. Look, one of us needs to do it. Somebody here needs to fake space junk. Let's just do a psyop. We're like, look, this fell through the building. I'll have to knock a hole in the wall. Look, it landed in the IPS headquarters, and I'm pretty sure it's from the ISS. Nobody would say it's fake, because the people who believe this space stuff believe everything. They would not question this at all. It's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's a piece of space debris from a SpaceX mission found in rural North Carolina. A company that operates cabins and other facilities on a mountaintop west of Asheville discovered this debris, and it looks like this came from a recent SpaceX mission when a Crew Dragon spacecraft returned to Earth. Look at that. Space debris was not on the list of things we expected to be having conversations about, remarked Matt Baer, owner of the Glamping Collective. Now, is there money in space debris? I know there's money in meteors. He said, I tied a rope to it and dragged it out with a lawnmower. There's a 1 in a million chance that it lands. If it landed somewhere off the trail, you would never have found it, but we just happened to find it on the trail. How convenient. So space junk is a thing, and I think this is all predictive programming for when maybe Putin is going to shoot down the 42,000 CubeSats that Musk has put up there. Like, I think they're building up towards some kind of a space junk Armageddon. 6079 says, why boot me? I'll debate respectfully. Well, it's not about a debate, but if you want to debate, we can. Now, what do you want to debate? The Mandela effect or chemtrails? Violet Pengon says, I want to do it, got to find some metal junk. See, I could see arranging something like, for example, we would have an art exhibit, an art show, and every artist brings in their own space junk. We won't describe it as an art show, but we'll set it up like one. Like, oh yeah, we all have our own experiences. Here's my space junk. And we can all back each other's claims. Like, we'll all crisis act for each other's videos. Yeah, I saw a light in the sky. I was watching Elon Musk's rocket launch on YouTube, and then I saw the light in the sky. I heard a boom. And then this person, yeah, we could make it happen. We all bring our space junk in. And my reasoning here is to test the belief of the believers. Are these believers so dumbed down, naive, unthinking, and credulous that they will believe anything? Or will they reach a point where, wait, this is absurd? Like, that's what good art shows should do anyway. Even if art's meant to provoke or cause people to think about things in a new way, maybe we ought to test them, because people are so uncritical about this new hyperstition. And that's what I would call it. Space junk is a hyperstition. 6079 Smith, yeah, if you want to debate, let's do it. Let's have a conversation on Zoom or something. Let's debate the Mandela effect. We need a moderator, but we will do a debate. And my idea here is this. Nobody should be willing to debate something that, I mean, and this is just, I think, a good starting point, that if you're willing to debate it, you should be willing to put your face out there. Like, these should be face-to-face debates. You shouldn't be reticent to hide that if you really want to stand on your belief. So what we'll do is we'll do a Zoom conference. We'll have a third party who will be the moderator, and it'll be like, you spend 5 minutes giving your best examples of Mandela effects. I spend 5 minutes refuting, and then the moderator advances the conversation, and we go back and forth. And by the end of this hour-long conversation, we may not come to any agreements, but the listeners, the audience, will have more information and they will be able to decide who won the debate. It doesn't have to be won then and there. We can keep it civil and let the people decide after. So if you want to do this as a respectful debate, let's do so. But I feel like if you're not willing to go on camera, you don't really believe it. I have yet to have somebody on camera saying, I believe that JFK Jr. is JFK in a suit who dresses up as Donald Trump and has come here on behalf of Jesus to save us. You know, this insane, this batshittery from the QAnons. It's very difficult to get these people on camera, except at these rallies you get people who do it, but they're usually, I think, plants. But if you're going to assert this crazy stuff, you should be willing to get on camera, and let's do it. So again, just for the record, 6079 Smith W. and I are likely going to have a debate unless he chickens out. So we shall see. You know how to reach me. We will arrange it. And if somebody wants to volunteer to be a moderator, I'll take volunteers. And the moderator's job is simply to watch the clock and give us the 2-minute notice, 1-minute notice as we give our best points. But again, I don't think that the debate will work if we think we're going to have a winner that day. We're not. We're just going to have point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint, closing arguments. You know, the opening will be the main point. I think that will put our best arguments forward. Okay, good, good. Well, if 6079 is willing to debate his Mandela effects and the Bible Mandela effects, we can have that conversation. That's the only way this is going to move anywhere. And the believers who observe this will walk away knowing a little bit more. Rome says LMAO batshittery. Yeah, is that a word? You know, the world has become so strange that you almost have to make up words in order to describe things. You have to come up with new words for the new terrain. It is in Wiktionary. Another word I really like is moonbats. Okay, well, I'll put that on my calendar. Again, reach out to me if you want to debate, and this goes for anybody here. I have other topics. If you want to debate in favor of anything, the only thing I ask is you bring your best evidence or your best arguments. If you're going to argue in favor of chemtrails, we can have that debate, but I will expect you to bring photos of your own chemtrails. If you want to debate the space station, you have to bring a video that you filmed of the space station. You can't rely on other people's. You can't do hearsay, can't do CSay. I want to debate ISS, chemtrails, Mandela effects, and look, we can debate the pokey if people want to debate the pokey, but the main rule is this: you have to be on camera. If you want to debate 5G towers and fake gorillas, I'm open for any of it. Okay, excellent. Well, hopefully someone reaches out to me and doesn't shy away from the opportunity to be heard, to be seen, and to hopefully convince me. Because here's where you can win. If you convince me that chemtrails are real, I will be the Greta of chemtrails. I will shut it down. I will go to the UN. If you can convince me. If you can convince me of any of these issues, I will be its champion. Thirst says, how do you become unaffected from the Mandela effect? You don't. Well, good point, because the Mandela effect is real, and people are Mandela affected. But it's not about reality shifting. It's about absorbing through bad arguments some, I would say, wild assertions. It's like miracles in a way. But unlike spiritual experiences or legitimate synchronicities, the Mandela effects are the byproduct of gaslighting. In other words, deception. And the people who spread the Mandela effect are deceivers. And they think they are the truth tellers and everyone else is deceived. No, it's perplexing that someone could arrive at that point where they misspell a word and they say, I couldn't have misspelled the word. The dictionaries are wrong. Think about the hubris Like, I'm right, I'm never wrong. And they all say, well, I remember Ed McMahon passing out big checks. I remember, I can rely on my perfect memory. And then you're like, oh, what was the name of the podcast you were just listening to? I don't remember. I catch them in this all the time. And I find a lot of these Mandela affected people are poor spellers. Like their spelling is just terrible. Okay, let's see. What else are we looking forward to? Tomorrow is JFK's birthday. We made some connections between JFK's birthday, John Hinckley's birthday, John Hinckley and Taxi Driver, and Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro, and Joker, and Robert De Niro hanging out at the Trump trials, which have all been connected to Joker. Tomorrow there will be a lot of JFK fanatics over at Dealey Plaza, and in a few days, the Boeing Starliner is going to have some kind of a disaster, I think, just based on predictive programming. Anything with Boeing on it, cursed, pretty much. We still have 20 more minutes if anyone else wants to call in. 6079 Smith is welcome to call in. I'm just saying that if you want to debate, we should do it formally so that people can gain something from it. And the way I want to organize it, the way I envision it, it's very much like the way I watch these various debates that Christopher Hitchens had with various theists, where they're calmly discoursing, sitting in these comfortable chairs with the moderator between them. They're not at each other's throats, and it's really focused on the content and the structure of the arguments, and I think that's where we need to be with this. Boeing, Boeing gone, says Lean Dion. Yeah, and it's a couple twins. So the Boeing Starliner has two people going up named Will something and Will. And I'm thinking, okay, twins. Boeing will launch its first ever, and they've been planning this since last month. It's been delayed again and again. It had some kind of a leak. It's been a reoccurring theme. Update, they announced repairs done. So they just repaired it. That doesn't inspire confidence for me. We had to delay this rocket launch. We just repaired it. Because it's like when things go wrong with these rockets, it's like you can't really mess up. Boeing's update regarding the delay of the NASA Starliner. So first they had to replace a pressure regulation valve on a liquid oxygen tank, and this is on the Atlas V rocket's upper stage. NASA and Boeing, NASA and Boeing. Again, this sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Well, we'll follow this story. Again, I'm kind of thinking, just given everything else this entire year, starting with Leave the World Behind, the fact that it has Boeing on it means it's likely damned. NASA's Wilmore and Williams are ready for the Starliner launch. Again, Will and Will, twins, as we enter Gemini. I'm still waiting for Tom Cruise to make it to the space station. I don't think they're going to blow it up until he's had his time up there. All right, let's see if we can get through the rest of my notes here. Breaking news, devastating gas leak explosion at Chase Bank in Youngstown, Ohio. Now that looked real. I generally say it's, fake until proven real. That one wasn't super extraordinary, but the location is of note. It's interesting, Ohio. So I take note of these things, but I didn't see any crisis actors or agenda attached to it. We'll follow Trump deranged Robert De Niro and where this story goes. Subscribe below, ips.monster. You can get your notifications and archives there. I'll be updating from last night as well. 777 says, quite strange how people claim to be Christians with the Mandela effect, as if they think God changes his Bible verses on a whim just to mess with their minds. Yeah, that is kind of a tricky thing. It's like, I thought Satan was the father of lies. Like, no, God's doing it. Thirst says, according to lore, I think they believe the devil's changing the Bible. Yeah, there have been various takes on it. Like CERN has the 666. You have the opening tunnel ceremonies with the people in goat costumes. And when I see that, I think Cernunnos, the horned god. Basically Pan. Baphomet partially represents that. It's the active principle of nature. But CERN 666, Lord Shiva, it's just got Satan and devil all over it. We have a pretty good explanation for Berenstain Bears, though. The theme music says it Berenstain, so that could explain it. All right, let's move on. We're going through my minds.com/infinite plane society. We've been following Stu Peters and his drama just because we need to follow the controlled opposition, because they will be used to represent you. So we were talking about numbers, as we often do in our chat, and I was talking about the 45, 47 on Trump's head, how it's a 9/11 connection, and how 4547 is the 616th prime, and 616 is a very beastie number, an alternate number of the beast. But we were talking about these numbers, and someone had mentioned all the 777s around Trump. And we were getting into this stuff because it's like you've got the Pentagon, 77 feet high, hit by Flight 77. Construction date started to the day 60 years before 9/11. Just interesting stuff. But anyway, if you multiply 7 times 7 times 7, you get 343. And of course, 343 is the number of department members killed on 9/11. 343 FDNY members. So we were looking at these different numbers, and then of course 343 were said to have been victims of the 9/11 related illness. So a second 343. Just more interesting connections there. We've also been looking at predictive programming, connecting Stanley Kubrick today. I kind of brought up a few things, but we need to look into that a little deeper. I think the JFK connection to Full Metal Jacket, played by Matthew Modine. Full Metal Jacket, JFK, the Joker, the character Joker has a target inside of his head. Anyway, just pointing out that Stanley Kubrick's predictive programming for 9/11 exists in almost all of his movies. And we're looking at Trump and this thing on the side of his head, and I'm just suggesting here that this event that we're looking at is likely part of the same continuum of psychological operations. Like, I think this is Kubrick. When I see the 4547 on the side of Trump's head, to me that's Kubrick's signature. Right there in our faces. Jungle Surfer says Ohio is coded hex. Yeah, the Ohio thing figures prominently in this Trump narrative as well. And remember, it was last year you had the Palestine-Ohio train derailment that caused a toxic airborne event. And this toxic airborne event looked like a mushroom cloud. And this mushroom cloud was just like the one in the movie called White Noise. And White Noise preceded this Palestine-Ohio train derailment, and White Noise is about a derailment. So we took from this, not only is it predictive programming and an example of how Netflix and the news go hand in hand, but the fact that it took place in East Palestine. So the name Palestine, and then Ohio is the heart of it all. That's the slogan. The heart of the nation. The train derailment was like a heart attack caused by deregulation or clogged arteries. The whole narrative there was pretty obvious to deconstruct, but Israel, Israel seems like another heart, like comparable to Ohio, the symbolism, heart of a nation. So the Palestine reference here kind of stood out to me as possibly predicting a mushroom cloud out there in Gaza. And here's an image of the mushroom cloud in East Palestine. So I'm just suggesting here that, we haven't quite seen the end of it all, but Ohio does seem to figure prominently in a lot of the psyops. Okay, let's see what else. I'm catching up on comments. And then we have the Columbia university thing. That was kind of a flashpoint. I'm going through the Gilded server. If you want to join us on Gilded, you can find it on ips.monster. It's where we do our most up-to-date research. It's 24/7. I'm going to scroll up and make sure I haven't missed anything. If I have, we'll catch up with it tomorrow. Okay, there were some J6 police officers hanging out with Robert De Niro. I saw that. Here's Robert De Niro hanging out with some very Pizzagate-y people. Oh, here's something I thought was interesting. So, a Man in Full. A Man in Full, based on a Tom Wolfe novel, but repurposed to represent Donald Trump. I've been talking about this movie a lot because it's totally based on Trump. There's no doubt about it. I think it's pretty much admitted openly now. But anyway, Jeff Daniels plays Donald Trump. And here's one of the statements that I screen capped. He says, $1.6 billion swing Popeye. 1.6, January 6. Dominion sues Fox for 1.6 billion. So the 1.6 thing was pretty significant. Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco. Waco is rated over 1.6 million rounds. So the 1.6 Donald Trump connection here is pretty clear. But then Popeye. He used the name Popeye. He's referring to somebody there, which made me think about the one eye symbolism. And of course, he dies at the end of this movie. One other point, this is the character who plays in Dumb and Dumber. I didn't recognize him right away until today someone shared the actor's name. This character who plays Trump is also in Dumb and Dumber, Jeff Daniels. So it's kind of funny. They chose the Dumb and Dumber guy to play Trump, and then they killed him, just like they killed Trump in Civil War. Little just factoids there. Jeff Daniels. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Jungle says 2 missing, multiple injured in the explosion at Chase in Youngstown, Ohio. Yeah, I'm following that. I don't know if it's connected. And then here in town, an F-35 crashed. I don't know if that means anything. I mean, tomorrow's JFK's birthday. He was president number 35. Maybe a reach, but the JFK meme is very strong out there. And just the other day, General Flynn said that if Trump is convicted, it will be a JFK moment. And that's why I'm referring to Trump and the 9/11 on the side of his head. This is all foreshadowing the JFKing of Donald Trump, which is coming soon. The predictive programming makes it very clear that that is the next thing. And you see preparation for this. Now, Flynn tries to suggest that it's going to be some kind of a character assassination, but, well, we'll see. Breaking Chase Bank building explodes in downtown Youngstown, Ohio. People are missing under the rubble. And if you look at the picture, it says 44 Huntington. So if you're looking into it, if you're looking for any clues, the number 44 is prominent there. What does that mean, if anything, here? Not quite sure. It was kind of interesting that Trump was arraigned on 4/4, and that was, of course, last year. And 4/4 was also the Joker's birthday, Heath Ledger. Not Joker 2, but the first Joker, the previous Joker. Heath Ledger turned 44 on 4/4 of last year, the day Trump was arraigned. Not quite sure what that means, other than I connected it to this. Joker 2, Second Coming reference. T2. Again, we're talking about Second Coming. 4 is a cross, and the number 4 represents a cross, the 4 seasons, which is the cross is a solar symbol. So 4/4 would be a double cross, Second Coming. You could say the same with the XX, TT. Various ways you can represent the double cross, and as a concept, the first rung is death, the second is resurrection. We've been talking about the symbolism of the double cross for some time here. So 44 does have that connotation built into it. Jungle Surfer says, look at the pics of Youngstown, much like. Oh, oh yeah, okay, I'll take a look. It could be fake and staged. Copaesthetic says, the bank exploding closes off a road. The building looked empty and unused. Right, I looked at the pictures of it too. Here's, if you look at it, it looks pretty small in scale. I don't really have a reason to call it fake necessarily, but I have no reason to think it's real. And in the context of everything else, I assume it's just another plot twist, another point to note, just for future reference. So there's this reoccurring theme I'm seeing on Twitter about some upcoming flood. Ava Petrucci on X says, we're buying some investment property as part of getting our savings out of the banking system. This map has been helpful. And here's a map, a prophetic map of the USA after a pole shift. So a hypothetical pole shift, which would put much of the West Coast underwater. And the areas in green on this map show where billionaires are buying land. So interestingly, if you go by where billionaires are buying property, it happens to be the areas unaffected by the prophesized flood. Kind of interesting here. It's like maybe the billionaires do believe in global warming and the ocean levels rising. But it's a whole genre of flood prediction. Someone had shared this with me. I thought it was kind of interesting to point out. And since I had a map here, I decided to also highlight something. I was talking to Jurassic Liars recently about this, and he had alluded to Washington and how it looks like the face of Elvis looking to the west. So I drew a little hair on it. You can see here, if you look at the contour of the west coast of Washington, it actually looks like Elvis looking out into the sea. That is absolutely objectively the case. It's not pareidolia. That is Elvis. And similarly, and this is kind of part of the same line of thinking, Florida absolutely looks like Trump's profile, Trump's hair. And then I don't know if this is related specific, but I guess so. It does look like Joe Biden is part of Montana sniffing Idaho. Just some zoomed in portions of the map I wanted to focus on just to show you. Yeah, this Elvis theme goes so deep, and it actually does encompass this idea of Florida's, or not, well, Florida, but also of Washington's literal resemblance to Elvis's face. We'll talk about this and more coming soon. I think we're going to have to wrap it up tonight. If you want to leave me voicemails, I do get to those, and I want to get to the comments on my YouTube channel before we get any further here. And we still have a couple minutes left on the phones, but I want to arrange to debate with Smith 6079. Okay, comments. Stuart McKenzie says, I don't know what to make of the Mandela effect, but I do know that Dolly used to have braces in the James Bond movie Moonraker. That was the whole point of the love story between Dolly and Jaws. Okay. Rebel Soul says, I do think there's something going around our flat Earth, but it has nothing to do with NASA. I'm talking about the ISS. David Hazel says balloons. The thing about stratospheric balloons, like satelloons, they don't move. They're stationary. So, no, there's nothing up there. Automaton says, even if one saw a dot of light up there, how would one explain its construction? Such monumental engineering feats such as this would have been not only photographed but filmed. Having demonstrated, okay, yeah, good point there. There's no video of the ISS being built. He goes on to say, quote, having someone demonstrate that which you proposed as being evidence of a vessel in the sky, which is traveling faster than a bullet, would prove nothing to me. It's hard for me to accept and fervently defend nonsensical
90
things.
seconds.
Okay, our phones are off for the evening. I'll go ahead and turn that off. Now, I'm reading comments left on the main YouTube channel. So those of you who are members there, you can leave comments and I'll go through them nightly. Anyway, he goes on to say, I love how you break things down. Keep up the good work. Continuing. Frank Zen says, if I had $1 for everyone that said they've seen the space station, even with the cell and a selfie, it could still be faked. Yeah, a lot of false witnesses. Okay, Erica Creech says, Tim Pool asked Trump about pardoning Assange at the Libertarian Convention last weekend. And that's Tim Pool without an E. Throwing Pearl says, the mainstreaming of conspiracy theory is part of the push into the false light. Trump is presently the main actor and false light magician. This is all part of a macro Hegelian dialectic. The Jesuits are at the top. All roads lead to Rome. The Jesuits have practiced not only occultism but black magic in its worst form. That's from H.P. Blavatsky. Goes on to say, this is from Martin Luther, we are here of the conviction that the papacy is the seat of the true and real Antichrist. Throwing Pearl says, everything you discussed is Antichrist deception. Uncool Ben says, bro, the World War III game has nothing to do with the Call of Duty franchise. No, they don't. Well, they're both brands of propaganda. I mentioned the World War III game. I think it was Modern Warfare 3. But they all contain the same types of predictive programming, conditioning, etc. Freemason 216 says drama with the wrench holders was off the charts during this live stream. Time to grow up, people. That was last night. Dwayne Garrett said, damn, I missed it. Seriously, some wrench holders, though, are a bit off. To which Freemason 216 says, several of those wrench freaks have issues. All right, appreciate the comments. Look forward to reading more of those. And I definitely want to spend some time doing debates. So if you're willing to debate me on any topics, let's arrange it. I have Zoom, I have Skype, we can make it happen. But we'll be back likely same time tomorrow. Sign up for the newsletter, again, ips.monster, and we will continue this conversation. I'm going to follow up on everything that's been already happening and then whatever happens in the meantime. Again, if you're in the Dallas area tomorrow and you're willing to take a trip to Dealey Plaza, reach out. Lord Laney says, best show on the airwaves, Viva the Skeptics. Thank you, absolutely. This is really one of the greatest, I think one of the greatest think tanks out there when it comes to media deconstruction, because we are not mystified, we are not bamboozled, we're not tricked by any of it, and we're not falling into any habits of giving any benefit of the doubt to the liars in high places. Quite the contrary, we're standing firm on our positions. This is a stable philosophical posture, and if no further evidence is ever brought, we're going to remain disbelievers, which is something that the believers have a hard time with, but we're not changing to appease their feelings. All right, thank you for joining. This is One-Eyed Jack in the Shells, Pope Elon.
Die someday. And if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? Okay. You know, if we're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe it'd be quite exciting. But so I think given the choice of dying on Earth or dying on Mars, I'd say, yeah, sure, I'll die on Mars.
And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake.